guess what I did? I checked the time. Fourth time's the charm. Drop is back. My emotional support buddy for the day. I quite like doing this. I think I'm going to do it every time. Have a little stuffed animal. I only have 3, so I technically have a Labubu, but I put him away because he was scaring me. Okay, so where did we leave off, y'all? Curve. Okay. Now, to pretty much any person I've ever talked to about my job, me telling them I'm a curve model is an utter shock. And I think it should be, because it is crazy. But what I do explain is that curve is basically just the name of the board for anyone that's not a size 0 2. But obviously saying I'm a quote unquote curve model is odd, because I don't look super curvy. So I will start this episode by talking about a very interesting thing and continuing on with my biological research that I was doing. That happened to me the day I got signed in New York for the first time at Wilhelmina. And my agent at the time, again, all these people, they don't work at Wilhelmina anymore. But she told me, she was like doing my measurements. And she said, "Do you have a phone in your back pocket?" And I'm like, "No." It's right there. Why? She was like, "Oh, some people try to add a couple extra inches, everything helps." And I'm like, what is happening? Essentially, if you're skinny, if you're a straight size model, the smaller the better. That's how it was for so long. The smaller the better. In the America's Next Top Model doc, there's a scene where this girl, she, is posing for pictures, and the guy says, "Oh, you're so thin, you're a designer's dream." I don't know what that means. That's really creepy to me to say that to a young girl. It's weird, and the whole show is weird, so we're just going to really write that all off. But I mean, in terms of the industry, back then, it was the smaller the better, Kate Moss, she got really famous, and the reason this heroin chic thing kind of solidified in style was because I probably shouldn't I just went to crack my hands, but then I was like, you're going to hear that on the recording and wonder what that was. So I'm not eating walnuts over here. I'm just cracking my knuckles, and I went to do it, and then I explained it. So now I did it anyway. Yeah. So the smaller, the better. And I mean, it's just heartbreaking to me that that's how that had to be. Classic. Kate Moss gets famous for saying, "Oh, well, abs taste better than cake." What? First of all, feeling healthy and fit is one thing, but I'd like cake still. I don't know why that was the comparison, but she said that, and it was everywhere. And, this was back in the 90s, 2000s, and this twig thin aesthetic kind of stayed. And it's also hard to achieve that. You know what I mean? I don't even want to say achieve, because that just doesn't sound right. It's hard to maintain that size as an adult woman who is naturally has her bone structure and has hormones and carries children, etc. Right? So why that became the standard for keeping women small, perhaps it's a manipulation thing to keep them from having the energy to fight back or speak up, etc. You certainly can't make many, in my experience, coherent thoughts when you're that hungry. It was just damn near impossible. And yeah, so, it was the thinner the better. But then when Curve came on the scene, it was the bigger the better. That was the other end of the spectrum now. And it's because if a brand wants to have a runway show or an ad campaign or what have you, and they want to show that they're diverse, well, they have to look like they're diverse. So they have to have a girl who looks diverse. And in terms of sizing, that means somebody who looks curvy. Me, I'm not going to accomplish that for them, because I don't fit either box on paper, but I also just don't really look really curvy. So as much as it is the definition of diversity to have something of everything, the real definition of diversity in terms of marketing is what looks like diversity. Doesn't matter where they come from, doesn't matter who they are, doesn't matter if they're healthy or not or whatever. It matters what looks like diversity for marketing, for clients. That's awful because we're not mannequins. We're living, breathing human beings. We have feelings, we have lives, we have backgrounds, we have passions, we have hobbies, we have degrees, we have all these things that we do every day that are going for us. We fall in love, we get heartbreak. We're living, breathing people. So to treat us like things to fill a box or a quota is gross. I don't like that. I think you should be picking women based on who they are. Are they good at their job? Are they fun to have on set? Are they passionate? Are they beautiful inside and out? Those are the things that should be pushed in marketing. And let's be real. Logically speaking, in my opinion, that is what sells, is an awesome person. What's not going to sell is some shallow, done before, a repetitive freaking, here's the same thing, here's the same box that we filled every single time. Oh, drop fell off my lap. He's sad. It's okay. That's so hackneyed. That's a thing of the past, And we lost that, I think, in the modeling, we lost the celebrity factor that helped promote us in that way. We used to exclusively do covers. Now celebrities do covers of magazines. Now, influencers do covers of magazines. Reality stars do the covers of magazines. It's not just a model on the cover of the magazine anymore. And then what's the point? I guess our point is to market the clothes, be in e-commerce, etc., do those kinds of jobs. But then we lose the factor in this industry of the supermodel. And do I think the modern definition of a supermodel is appropriate anymore? No. I think what did I just say? The antiquated definition of supermodel is what I don't think is appropriate anymore. The supermodel of the 90s was someone uber thin and usually white and blonde or, just that typical, Kate Moss look. And what did she do? I mean, she walked the runway well and she did her job well, but at the same time, it gets old because your next question is, then what? When I interview Kate Moss, what's that like? Does she talk about, I'm so sick of us having nothing to us and that being the assumption. I think today's supermodel, especially somebody like Ashley Graham's a fun example because she has a family and she's got things that she does and she travels and she, you know what I mean? She's a whole person. And I think the modern supermodel should be the whole personhood. There's so many rich characters to be had if you just ask a few more questions beyond, oh, did she model the clothes well? For example, I'm going to self-promote right now. I'm a blacksmith. Take that in. I'm a blacksmith. I spent 2 years apprenticing and I know how to make blades. I can make you a sword. I make knives. I have some on my wall. I wonder if I could no, it's too weird to get all the way up and go to my kitchen and get the knives. But anyways, I make knives. That's really cool. But no one asks you that. You know what I mean? We're just now kind of breaking into I think what should be the modern definition of a supermodel in terms of culture, which is awesome. You have all these models because now diversity is more of a given. So you need models that are all these different races and come from all these different backgrounds and are all these different gender identities. And that's freaking awesome. And it's a way, I think, to break into keep asking more questions. There's some really wonderful models God, there's just so many that come to mind. But how do you even pick one? Let's use the Native American models as an example, right? They have done so many cover stories and cool exposés on their culture. It's led to shows like Reservation Dogs. Is that what it's called? There's just such an expansive world to be had in terms of storytelling, celebrity. It's just so rich once you break into that and like explore different cultures and walks of life, that I think for many American minds, as ironic as it is because we are the melting pot, struggle to understand or invite into their own home. And that's a problem because it's so fascinating. Like, our world is just so inadvertently intertwined with one another, and how, think about the Silk Road, historically speaking. And like, that's just fascinating to me, how spices and these goods get traded along this global trade route via ship, like ocean. I can't even fathom traveling for months to years on a boat in the ocean. Wild. I can hardly tolerate the flight from here to San Diego. I can't. Wild. So, you know what I mean? Like, think about all the effort and human ingenuity and strength and perseverance and like disaster to be had in stories like that. What if you asked models those kinds of questions? Think about the cover stories you'd get out of that. Think about the interviews you'd get out of that. Like, culture is just one step into breaking into that, because so many models have interesting, rich histories and pasts and hobbies and things that they do. And like, it would behoove marketing to tap into that, honestly. So you're welcome for the free game. I'm doing your marketing job for you. But yeah, so again, I get signed in Curve and they're telling me now to gain weight, and it all feels very small-minded. And I just can't believe that we're still trying to like fit these boxes and like that's what we're after. It just has never made sense to me, like marketing wise. And so I went right back to the books. And I was like, well, the bigger I am, the more money I'd make as a Curve model, right? That's what they're telling me. What are the consequences of this if I were to gain weight? Is it easy to lose the weight? Does it have an effect on my health? In what ways would it affect my health? Does it affect it at all? Like, what's the threshold? And I started looking into it. And again, weight gain, especially like big amounts of weight gain in a short period of time, it's just not good for my body. Even me personally, other people are built differently. They have different bone structures. They have different family histories. Some people tolerate more weight versus others. There's a lot of things that are out of your control. We're talking genetics and different diseases and syndromes that make it easier to gain weight and keep it on, and the opposite as well, make it really difficult for you to gain weight. We're humanity. We're a spectrum. And for me personally, even just a couple more inches, 10, 20, 30 pounds. It sounds like a lot, but like, I'm so tall that I've been 30 pounds heavier than I am now and 30 pounds lighter. And like, the difference is somewhat minimal, but in appearance, but I feel way different. My heaviest, I was pushing 180, and that I didn't feel good. I did not feel good. I was trying to work out, and it was, again, like aesthetically, you probably wouldn't have been able to tell that much, but like, I just didn't, my knees hurt, like everything was more painful. And I did not gain that weight because, they told me to. I was just senior in college and working on my theses and just eating myself out of house and home because I couldn't cook. I just had to work on my theses. So I just went out and ate all the time. But yeah, I'm looking at all this research and what gets coded onto your DNA. And really, one of my goals in life someday is to be a mom. And I care about that. Like, I want to be as healthy as possible when I'm pregnant, before I'm pregnant, when I'm having my kids, so that I can be as present as I can be in my control for their lives. And also just so that they have the, genetic predisposition to be as good as I can get it. Have I been through a lot of things in my life? Yeah, they're going to come out the womb with some stuff. But like, as far as what's in my control, I want to do as good a job as I possibly can. And I owe it to them. I really do, to make sure that I do my best. And yeah, I was like, okay, I'm not gaining weight. And they didn't mind, they're going to market me as what I am. that's pretty much the Curve division's job. But it was interesting because I started to see, you know, again, like this small-mindedness in terms of marketing. It was one or the other. It was the sample size because that's industry standard. That's what we've been doing. We're not changing it. It'll cost too much money to change it. That's what we're doing, period. And then we'll throw in a Curve look to look diverse. Do better. Do better. How embarrassing, in my opinion, for you as a company to be so lazy. Why? You're only fitting a box because you want to look like you're doing something. Meanwhile, your brand might not even carry a size 18. So what are you even doing? Now you're, in a way, kind of frauding consumers, in my opinion. But I think that, that doesn't speak for every brand. And this was the really cool part of where my journey went next. So I get signed. I'm in college. I'm a senior. It's 2019. And then 2020 happens. I'm in my last semester. I'm supposed to graduate in May of 2020. And, COVID talks are happening. And so we go on spring break. And they basically, Fordham said, every school handled this differently. It was just, what a shit show. I mean, who saw that shit coming? Oh my God. Oh God. So Fordham says, bring your computers home with you and everything for spring break. You're going to get an extra week, 2 weeks to flatten the curve. LOL. And, but bring your computer with because we don't know. This is kind of like a day-by-day thing. And so I'm from San Diego, which is the premier spring break destination in the continental US. Okay. I brought my computer and like 2 bathing suits. And as soon as my flight lands, my roommate hits me up and says, hey, check your computer or your email. We're not allowed back. And I'm like, fuck. So now I have 2 bathing suits and my computer and pretty much clothes on my back. And I can't go back to Fordham. I can't get my stuff, can't get my clothes, can't get anything. I have to finish my degree online. I don't get to graduate. We don't have a ceremony. And so I did. I finished and, I got all my theses done and I was on a full ride. So I told Fordham, hey, you need to refund me my housing scholarship because I have nowhere to live. You can't just kick people out on a whim. And they graciously did and even added extra from the emergency fund. So God bless again. Thank you, Fordham, for taking good care of me. And I had honestly a phenomenal COVID. It was great. I graduated. I traveled. I went to Arizona for a while. I went to Seattle for a while. I did all these beautiful hikes because all you could do was be outside, and social distance. So that's all I did. And, it was coming time for me to kind of figure out, like, what did I want to do? I mean, I was thinking, okay, I'm going to have career services meetings and I'm going to have interviews and pipeline to, like, the job market and, like, get a real job with my degrees. I didn't really know if modeling was going to work or not because I worked, like, maybe a job or 2 while I was still in school. Like, it was really difficult. I was a full-time student. And all that was poof, gone. No more career services, no more meetings, no more internships. New York closed, everything gone. The world shut down. No one's hiring. Jobs are gone. You're cooked. Like it's just over with. And I was caught between a rock and a hard place. I'm living at home again and I'm like, well, that sucks. What was the point of that? Why? I went to college and everything, and now what? This? And so I figured, well, I mean, I literally have nothing to lose. So I might as well tell my agents, like, hey, consider me full-time. I'm not in school anymore, and I'm graduated, and I'm done. So let's give it a shot. And they were like, yay, how exciting. And, the agents I had then are the agents I have now. My absolute dream team. I just love them so much. They're the best. So, I'm more focused on LA because I'm in San Diego at the time, and I'm driving up for little jobs here and there, and it just started to happen. Now, at first, it was really slim, right? Like, there's just, first of all, work was just slim regardless because COVID. And then, again, I don't fit the box of either end of the spectrum. I'm not a straight size model, and I'm not a proper curve sample size. So, and I'm an 8. So, like, now what? So the little jobs that I did do, and goodness, I had so much fun. I had a knack for it. I was good at it. I took direction well. I was smart on set. I was fun. I was using all these beautiful things in my personality and all these skills that I had developed through high school and college. And it was a blast. I just like fit right in. And the work started to pick up. Clients were telling the next client, was telling the next client, was telling the next client, and there's movement in the clients too. So an art director for this brand will now go to that brand, will go to that brand, etc. Photographers move around, they shoot for multiple brands, etc. So again, they're like spreading these things and saying, oh my God, you got to work with Hannah. She's so great. She's super funny, blah, blah, blah. And this pipeline started to happen. I could literally tell you job to job to job to job. It was like crazy how I just kept going. And it was looking really good. I was really happy. And I'm so glad that I stuck to my guns and stuck it out and full sent the full-time thing. And wow, like, was it a grind in the beginning? Yes. Again, I don't have a job. What did I even do? I had worked little baby retail jobs, and then I had what Fordham gave me of my scholarship. I had a little left over from the emergency fund, so I had a little bit of a buffer. And I'm living at home in San Diego, commuting, driving all the way to LA for these jobs until I had enough money to kind of sustain, like, okay, I'm okay now. Like, I'm not by any means rich, but like, at least I'm not like borderline homeless. And then my agents in New York, they were like, hey, New York's kind of opening back up 2021 in May. They called me and they were like, come back, give it a shot. So I come back for a couple months and I booked my first runway show, like an actual runway show. A presentation is different from a runway show. So a presentation is where you stand still and the people watching the show, walk around you and like you're standing in an outfit for probably an hour or 2 hours depending. And a runway show is obviously like quicker, you're literally walking the runway and then you're doing your final walk with all the looks and then you're done. It's like 5-10 minutes. So this was like an actual New York Fashion Week, like a full-on runway show, which was so exciting. And it was for Pat Bow. And they had all different models, different sizes, which was really exciting because I noticed that I was working with brands, obviously because I didn't fit the box, that were truly diverse, that wanted one of every size and wanted to showcase like, hey, our product doesn't just do one thing. Our product looks good on every body. And again, what a like logical marketing tactic. Wouldn't you want to showcase how your brand fits and looks good on every race, every skin type, every height, you know what I mean? That's in your best interest. Every size. So, these brands were really happy to have me there and it felt so welcoming. It was almost like my dissonance from the fitting the box spectrum made my work life really awesome just by proxy. So that was really exciting. I really, really liked that. And I have such good relationships with a lot of my earliest clients from that era. And they've written me letters of rec for schools and things like that. Like, it's just been I'm very honored to know them and have worked with them. And I get to New York, and then, again, it was tough. It was like day by day by day. And your agents are like also just, God, they work so hard. God bless them. Oh goodness. They're in that, they're on those calls, they're pushing you. They're like, "No, Hannah, like our clients love her. You could ask any of them. Look at her work. Look what she's done. She's so great." Da, 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 da. But again, New York's a beast. It's all a beast. It's tough. And I'm slowly making progress. And then the job that kind of put me on the map was I did a Gap campaign, 2 Gap campaigns back to back, in 2021 and 2022. And we were off to the races. The first sell is the hardest, and that first big sell, crucial. I mean, that I started doing e-com for them, for Old Navy, for Athleta, for Gap Factory. I did campaigns with other brands, because then these other brands, especially bigger brands that are less inclined to like, just work with anyone, they see, oh yeah, she has great skin. She's got great hair. She's got good hands. She's got, you know what I mean? Then your doors start opening up for you. And that was crazy. But again, like, I don't want it to be this like mystery of like, now I'm a millionaire. I'm not. Like, this is a job like any other. I make a normal amount of money. There were, my earlier years, my lowest year was, I mean, if you're not counting the year that was COVID, because like it was COVID, but my lowest year was 38,000 before taxes. And my best year was 120,000 before taxes. So it's varied. And again, there are the people at the either ends of the spectrum that probably make a lot more than that, anywhere from, 180 to 250, who knows, for the majority of these girls, because they are fitting the box. So they have a lot more work open to them. But me, I'm very happy having enough to live and, be happy, eat what I want to eat, go to a restaurant here and there, hang with my friends, go do fun stuff. I don't need a yacht. I don't need millions of dollars. I don't need, would I like Billy? Yeah, sure. But again, like, only really for the interest of like, if I have children, like I want to be able to put them in private schools and give them good food and, make sure I have a nice place for them to live in and them have clean clothes and things like that. I'm a very like basic needs kind of person. And if I'm happy and healthy and I have what I need and I'm not like stressed out about I'm okay. And on top of that, I have good work-life balance and I don't have to starve myself or change or fit a box. Fantastic, if you ask me. Putting my foot down was the best thing I could have done in terms of having an ideal career while still making enough to be alive and be pretty content and comfortable. Is living in New York expensive? Yeah, it's really expensive. I also lucked out with my place. That was a whole other thing. When I first moved back to New York, I lived in a roach-infested house. And then I lived in this apartment that I found on Facebook Marketplace or whatever, like just trying to find a place to live after the roaches. And I was living with this crazy composer who was just so anal about every noise and every sound. Oh my God, it was excruciating. Everybody has crazy roommate stories. And when I left that, I found this apartment. It's rent stabilized. So, legally can only go up a certain amount every year, which my landlord loves to increase every year like clockwork. Jeez, I don't get that. To me, it's like, if I still have the same apartment, why am I paying the same amount of rent? I should be paying the same amount for having the same thing. In fact, low key, not worse, but like, I've had to do a lot of improvements in here. I've done a lot of work. I've had to replace both closet rods. They both fell out of the wall in 1 week because of whoever put them up before me. Anyway, I digress. New York, living anywhere in America at this point is expensive and tough, and everything's getting worse. And we will talk so much more about being a model in New York, being a woman. What does it mean for logistics and pounding the pavement? What's a day in the life like? Any burning questions you have, hit me up, talk to me. Let's talk about it. I want to be as transparent as possible because, again, I think we should enter a new era of the supermodel that is not just somebody who does their day job or whatever and is silent otherwise. In most images that you see, that girl is silent. She's not talking in those ads. She's not talking in the e-commerce. What would happen if you heard her voice? Well, let me be the first to tell you, we're pretty freaking cool. Okay? So yeah, happy, healthy women. That's what we should be promoting. Happy, healthy women, comfortable in their own skin, having a good time, are diverse, varied, have cool stories, are passionate, are ethical, are loving, kind people. That's the supermodel. That's how we're going to define supermodel now. And with that, I'll see you next week. Boom. Bye.